here today to talk to you through a few slides regarding cyber and fraud threats. Any questions you may have, if you just pop it in the chat, I'll make sure I try and get back to those. What we're looking at today is common themes or issues that we've seen within the force in regard to these issues. They're multiplying, they're getting bigger, criminals are getting cleverer, but what we're looking at is to try and make sure that we can safeguard ourselves. So cybercrime for our perspective forms two different areas. So we've got cyber dependent crime, CMA offences, which is the Computer Misuse Act. There'll be a little bit more information on that one in a bit, which supports device hacking, account takeovers, authorized account access, malware infections, ransomware, data exfiltration, code squatting, DDoS, stressor tools use, cryptojacking, RAT use, e-skimming, spyware, developing hacking tools from use of other crimes, etc. So quite a few in there, quite a few perhaps you might have already heard of, maybe, particularly obviously around DDoS perhaps, or spyware and device hacking. The second area of that is the enabled crime. So this centers around cyberbullying, sextortion, online grooming, online fraud, malicious communication, cyber stalking, support services, fraud, payment diversion fraud, quite a big one in Northamptonshire, cryptocurrency fraud, remote access fraud, SMS blasting, phishing, smishing, phishing, quishing, etc. So some of those, again, hopefully you may know of, or you've heard terms of. You see a lot of sextortion going on and cyber stalking, but the main ones, I guess, from our side is the phishing, smishing. So it's text messages, email, quishing is the QR codes. See quite a lot of that where criminals are putting their QR code patches over the top of existing ones. So you go along and you get your camera out thinking you're doing what you should be doing, but actually it's going elsewhere, to the direction the criminals want you to go down. So no slide on a presentation, I guess, is without figures. So a few figures. I mean, these are obviously 22, 23, but I can say that I think the 51% of all crime committed at online has gone up a little bit, by not by much. Again, 1.6 million CMA offence reports received by action fraud. Again, those numbers seem more. The amount of reports that we get through on a weekly basis from action fraud seems to be on sort of the high. 234,000 instances of fraud resulting directly from cybercrime. So again, most elements of cybercrime come from fraud background. So we work very closely with our fraud colleagues at the Economic Crime Unit to basically do joint sessions where we do joint talks and stuff like that. So as I mentioned earlier, the Computer Misuse Act is broken into 5 sections. So section 1, unauthorized access to computer material. Basically, an example of this is to see a friend entering their phone password. Later, you use it to securely gain access to their phone and read the messages. Even stuff like looking over the shoulder when someone's on their phone, could be classed as a section 1 offence. Section 2, unauthorized access with internet to commit or facilitate commission of further offences. So again, an example of this would be a friend leaves your tablet on the couch without their permission, you access their Amazon and order something within their account. Section 3, so unauthorized act with intent to impair or with recklessness as impairing the operation of a computer. So play an online game with your friend, is beating you, you don't like that, it's very competitive. So you basically knock them off online and stop them playing. 3ZA, don't know where the Z comes into this one, but unauthorized acts causing or creating risk of serious damage. So again, you hacked into health agency computer system and were reckless as the consequences disrupting healthcare services. So again, they're getting more and more elevated in regard to the offence and obviously the consequences of those. And then 3A, making, supplying, or obtaining articles of use in another computer misact offence. So again, download software, you can infect the school network with malware, and again, it could be businesses as well, which again will cause massive disruption to said areas, industries, and stuff like that. So scam support calls, remote access. So again, we see a lot of calls or reports where particularly elderly, but we're all vulnerable to this, all age categories, where we're getting phone calls coming through, particularly if you've got landlines still. I know that quite a few of the uh, Wi-Fi providers do or have made away with the landlines now, as it's done through digital means. So regarding the sort of landlines, we're still getting a lot of people who are getting calls, pestered, the hard sales and stuff like this. We'll always try to sort of speak to people about this when we do our sessions to say, look, if you've got, say, an answering machine service, whether it's within the device or a separate one, the old-fashioned ones, just let it ring out. The consequences of you trying to dash to get to a phone call, for instance, you could injure yourself. Best thing to do is just let it ring. If it's important, then I'll leave a message. And the same with mobiles nowadays. I'm particularly one of those people that if I don't know who it is, I'll let it go to the voice message, and if they want me, they'll leave a message, I'll call back. But again, the remote access side of things, we do see a lot of phone calls from criminals saying that your Microsoft laptop or is having issues and they need to remote on to help basically diagnose or upload and stuff like this. As soon as they've got access, they can do whatever they want to. So again, don't let them have access. We advise to ignore it as best you can. They will do the hard push, they will do the hard sell, they will try and get you on board because ultimately they want access to your devices. But you've got to stand strong and just deny them that access. SIM swaps, so a massive thing going at the minute. Excuse me. Where basically, again, I think this is something that perhaps that the mobile providers will probably be looked into at some point, but there are a few, I won't obviously name, but a few who have lapsed security, perhaps, as to say. So what happens is victims are getting messages or text messages, emails through saying that their accounts have been swapped over or they've got a new number. It's just a notification to say that basically somebody has taken over their account and they've swapped their SIM. So they lose their accounts, they lose all the stuff that they have as everything runs through modern day devices. So run through SIMs. So they obviously they have to start afresh, and it is causing a massive upheaval. And it's just too easy nowadays for criminals to access other people's SIMs. But I think it's something perhaps that the mobile companies providers they need to toughen up on to basically make it more secure and safety wise. Otherwise, I say that this seems to be quite a big one at the minute that's happening in the country. Moving on to copycat fraud and phishing. So I'll start with the phishing part first. Quite easy to sort of explain this one. So we've probably all at some point had emails that have come through. There are some slides further on in the presentation, so that might give you a bit more detail behind it. But they'll basically, what the criminals do is they'll ping out an email to hundreds of people, and they'll basically wait for someone to either click on a link, and that opens then up the opportunity for them to then add in details, and then the criminals are sitting there just getting all this details coming back for free. We always say best thing to do is if you don't know or don't recognize it, or you're not expecting anything through, just either report it or delete it. Don't click on anything. Again, copycat fraud, very similar in that sense that they're it's just fraud where they've jumped on either through spoofing your details to make it look like it's a genuine email. They can change the names and the mobile details. Even looking at it, you can think, well, actually, this looks pretty realistic. But again, like we said, don't try not to obviously give them the information. Don't click on anything. Criminals don't need an easy run in the world, and to simply open a message and then clicking on the links is just supporting them. However, we do have busy lifestyles nowadays. We are very busy, regardless of whether we're young or old. We have situations where we caught off guard, and I'm pretty sure most of us have clicked on something accidentally. I'm not saying it's a negative thing, but sometimes it might not lead to anything. But to sort of be on the safe side, just try to basically sort of look, don't just don't click on it. Quite simple. Compromised accounts, I think it's pretty self-explanatory in that one. So accounts become compromised through a means where criminals have been able to access accounts, and then once they've got those accounts details, then they can do pretty much what they like regarding sort of buying and selling and releasing data and stuff like that. So criminals will use your hacked account too. So there's an interesting slide, this one. So they'll use it to take over other online accounts, as in the compromise I mentioned in the previous slide. Purchase items at your expense. They have no qualms with doing that. We see quite a lot of reports recently, in particular to a company where they're basically lots of purchases have been happening, and the victims have not done anything regarding those purchases. Advertise legal goods and services. So again, Facebook, for example, and selling concert tickets, stuff like that. We see this quite a lot. Scam your friends, contacts, and followers. So they'll look to try and particularly if they access, say, like WhatsApp, they'll then basically try to access your friends, your friendship circle, family, friends, and try and get stuff from them in that sense. Again, there's some slides on this, I believe, later on in the presentation. So along your private messages, we've done that one. Impersonate you and carry out identity theft. So again, they'll take over your lives because they've been able to access through means which we'll talk about later on. Distribute child exploitation images. So again, we've heard or we know of people who have been able to access images off people's phones, and then they've doctored those to make them not very nice, to be fair. Sending malicious hacking links to family and friends. So again, attacking people that we love and people that we that are close to us, in a way that we'll click on because we assume it's safe because it's coming from us. Blackmail using private videos and photos. So I mentioned it in the one of the first slides, sextortion. So they'll use videos and photos to blackmail. Again, we see it quite a lot into sort of young ages where they're sort of vulnerable and naive, and they'll send a photo, a video, or whatever it is, and then next minute they're getting blackmailed. 20 quid, 30 quid sort of stuff. But it can increase to higher amounts, and again, it's not very nice, and help launder money for criminal gangs. So device hacking, so reducing the risk. So enable software. So enable automatic software updates features on your devices. So most modern day devices, phones, laptops, tablets, should have an automatic software update feature. The best thing we can say is to keep that active. That way your device is all up to date, because if you don't, there's a good chance that that you won't have the safety. You won't be safe in regard to the policies and security within your devices. Always keep your device, software, apps, and other programs up to date, and fix newly identified security bugs and vulnerabilities. So again, once in a while, you just go in, just check your updates, do a scan of your device. Generally, it depends on how much how many apps and stuff you have on there. It doesn't normally take that long, if I'm honest. So put the kettle on, just check your scan, just to make sure there's nothing on your phone that or device that could be leave you vulnerable. Do not use devices or software that cannot be fully updated, as may put your personal data and other devices at risk. So again, I don't know if we do this much nowadays, but if you have any old devices, I think generally we probably don't use those. We tend to use the sort of more up-to-date devices, but again, just make sure that everything is fully updated. Use password or biometric lock on phones, mobile devices. So again, people say to us, or is this safe? How is this safe? But mobile devices are very safe nowadays. They use password managers. So I don't know if you have an opportunity where you've got into it and it's come up with the passwords. It's fine to use that, and then it will then consequently say, "Oh, do you want us to save it?" It's fine again to do that, because ultimately it sits within the phone and within your password manager, which again is very safe. So once you need it, it might ask you for a password or biometric thumbprint to access that page or that site or whatever you've been looking to access. Again, tablets have those as well, and in fact, looking forward to moving into sort of pass keys, which will be born by more around the biometric lock process. Make regular backup copies of all important documents, messages, contacts, photos, and videos using separate drive system and services. Again, it does sound like a bit of work, but you can get yourself a little memory stick, and if you've got anything that you really need that is personal to you, it's like the sort of modern day version of a home safe. If you had a lot of stuff, especially in the movies, they shove the stuff in the safe, they lock it away. This is just a similar thing, but it's more of a nowadays version, where you can just sort of pop it in and to save it on there, and keeps it safe. Ensure default passwords have been changed on all devices, including the router, LOT smart devices, and internet connected toys. So again, I think we all do this anyway, if I'm honest. We don't tend to run with the defaults. Passwords, we'll always change them. Again, we're moving into sort of password section in a few slides time, but it's very important nowadays, regarding password safety, and obviously your router. People have reported that people have been able to hack into routers. So again, I believe on the there's most routers on the back, there's a password or something to the hub, so you can just go into there, change the password, just making sure that you basically keeping yourself as safe as possible. So we'll move on to account compromises. So with this, we look at always trying to reduce the risk. So we mentioned it previously about the passwords. So what we look to try and do is make passwords as long and strong as possible. I think it's turned around. It used to be sort of different versions have been inactive along the sort of the past. But we sort of look towards different combinations, random words, so 3 random words in particular. So the examples, obviously, you can see here, Bloon sewing burgers is a strong password because algorithms possibly wouldn't be able to break that down. We had a situation a while back where a colleague got a few details from somebody, and then it was able then to crack into their password based on the few details that he gave to them because they had such an easy password. So most people have sporting teams, pet names, and then inevitably, I think very famous, well, not very famously, Michael McIntyre did a sketch on this about passwords where, you had a capital letter at the start, and then we moved to the special character stage. And all these combinations meant that obviously passwords were potentially at risk because people can break those quite simply by knowing the details and a little bit about you. Again, I'll move into that, I think, on the next slide. But for this part, obviously, we look to try and make sure that passwords are strong. In particular, your main email. Okay, you need to make sure that it's as strong as possible. But also other accounts you do have, just make sure that they are not the same password as your email. Because if your email is compromised, their criminal will then move on to other accounts. They'll go all social media accounts, so they'll try those basically with the same password, and that's when you then become compromised. Avoid using personal relatable names, terms, and dates and passwords, as I just previously mentioned. It's becoming too easy nowadays for criminals to be able to guess passwords. Never share passwords with anyone. It's quite self-explanatory. Obviously, we try not to do that, no matter who they claim to be. So we still are aware that people write them passwords down. Nothing wrong with that at all. If need be, actually, it's probably maybe just as good to do that. Where we don't, sort of, what I would say that we do see a little bit more of is when people sort of leave passwords attached to back of phones in phone cases, for instance, and again, that's a no-no. But obviously, it's if someone was to get hold of that device, then we don't know what would happen, to be fair, but something bad. Closed, dormant, and unwanted accounts. So again, there's a slide further down this. It seems to be a common theme, this one. But with old accounts, we grew up with the internet, and we signed up to loads of accounts, or generally even now, if you try to access Wi-Fi on site somewhere, you'll have to sign up to something. And due to the lifestyles that we have, we tend to forget about these things. So, at best, if you can, if you are aware of any old accounts, even after the session, go back, have a look and think, well, actually, is this, did I have that? Do I do that? Just close it down if you don't use it. The more you leave open, the more that you're open yourself to potential compromises, which which again, we're trying to minimize that risk as best we can. Use a different password for each account and site, especially with email and cloud accounts. So again, well, like I said previously, try not to keep the same. We speak to victims, and the first thing we'll say to them is, did you have the same password for your accounts? Inevitably, the answer mainly is yes. And then there's obviously other consequences. Obviously, other accounts have just been compromised, not just in email, but I'd say other social media, shopping, Amazon accounts have been compromised. So just to follow on from the reducing the risk section here, some of the online accounts may have been involved in data breach, where your passwords and other personal details have been leaked. So this one is particularly quite poignant to me. It's one of my favorite slides. Now, what I'd obviously get you to do is, whether you do it now or not, is just pop in haveibeenpwned.com into your devices. And then all you need to do then is just input your email address. If you're very lucky, you'll have a little green sign come up and sort of congratulations, you've got no breaches. But if like myself, when I did it, I had 8 or so showing. You do kind of think, oh, well, what's this about? But if you follow on down, it does show you what the company was and what was extracted from those. And as I said to you in the previous slide, if you can access those, whether you go back in and have to sort of change your password, do that. If you don't use it, close it down, delete it if you don't need it. I mean, the consequences of that, it might have already been compromised already, but it's always good to have a bit of a cleanup. So what I mean by data breach, so basically personal information, so stuff like passwords, usernames, email addresses, up to some point even IP addresses have been released into the internet either via the dark web, where basically criminals will look to either sell your details for money, or they'll keep hold of that and then they'll act upon a compromise within a year, 2 years, 3. They might not do it yet. They'll just sit there. So basically what I mean by that is that they'll have the ability to perhaps open up loans, credit cards, not seeing mortgages as far as I'm aware as yet, but stuff like that, credit cards, loans, accounts that are set up because they've been able to access this information, which was mentioned in the previous slides about making sure that everything is kept separate, your emails are kept separate, because if they have the ability to have this information passed to them, if they've bought the money, if they've bought this information, your personal information, then they're pretty much open to doing what they can with it. So again, it leads on to making sure that you only release what information you believe is viable. If you're filling in an application of some sort, and they want to know information that you don't believe they need to know about, then don't give them. Make something up. Date of birth, for instance. I don't know about you, but if you put your date of birth in, you're guaranteed on your date that on that date you're going to get an email through something advertising something. So I personally will put a different date down just to make sure that I know that my information is different and that can't be traced back to myself. But a few companies there. I mean, there's hundreds of companies, but these are ones obviously that we obviously are quite high profile. Facebook, 533 million. Ticketmaster, I think pretty much most of Ticketmaster's base was compromised when they obviously got this breach. More modern day ones, Jaguar Land Rover, is it John Lewis, Marks and Spencer's? But yeah, there've been ones obviously a bit more recent. Now, basically, what companies have is the undertaking of when you've subscribed to them, the undertaking is for them to make sure that your information is secure. And off the back of these data breaches, they should be forthcoming with, by the way, you've had this breach. Hence, obviously, the recent ones with Jaguar Land Rover have obviously been in the news. But most times that we see these sort of situations in regards to data breach, the victims haven't been aware of it or didn't know anything about it. And that comes, that again, that probably hits you harder because, you've trusted people with your personal information. Again, we look back to the olden days with the sort of yellow pages or the phone book in particular. Everything now is online. There's an online presence for most people, and that information again can be used against us from a criminal's perspective to do whatever they want to. Like I say, particularly setting up loans, account number, new accounts, credit cards. To a point, most are very good at sort of, this is not me, and getting them cancelled. But it's just the hassle and it's just the heartache that you have to go through, to try and prove that you've not done all this on there. So some of the steps that we would say potentially to sort of try and help if you haven't already. So enable two-step verification or two-factor authentication, as it's also known as, on all important accounts. So what I mean by that is most accounts, especially social media now, emails, are moving towards a two-factor authentication. Basically what it means is that even if somebody tries to access a said account, you'll be notified of that, and that way then that you can then step up and go back in and change the email or make it more secure. So if you can enable that, then that's what we would suggest to do. As it says here, adds an extra layer of security that verifies it's generally you. Any authentication apps makes the 2FA verification quick, easy, and secure. So again, there's a couple that that you can check your app stores for, and basically the Authenticator app, you'll access say the blue one. If you just access that one there, it'll ask you for what you're looking for, and then there'll be a code, a 6-digit code, and that code will be changing every few minutes. So basically then you can use that code then to access the said account that you're trying to get to. I mentioned earlier about passkeys, so consider using passkeys or other reputable password managers. So again, most devices nowadays have password managers built within the devices, which are very secure. And the passkeys I've seen recently on my own device works via sort of biometrics, thumbprint. So another thing that we see a bit of is legacy email accounts. I had one recently for NTL customer. Obviously NTL moved into Virgin, sorry, took over NTL, and some of these emails still sit there as active. While they're active, they are there to be compromised. So if you have any linked to those old ones, like say the NTL, try and access and try and get those closed down. I say in particular with NTL through Virgin, very very hard to try and get that one done because Virgin don't seem to understand that they had these accounts that they took over, and obviously we need to make sure that they can get shut down, especially if they're inactive. What you can do is there's malicious rules on there, so you can check your emails accounts for any sort of rules, block lists, filters that have been secretly set up. So what I mean by that is if your email has become compromised, criminals will then set up an auto rule forwarding facility where basically any emails that then come into your email will then basically get forwarded to their email, because they've put their email in there as a forwarding email. So if you feel that you think that it might be an issue where you've not maybe had any emails for a while, then you can go into your settings and see if there's anything that's set up in there regarding an email that is not recognizable to yourself, as it may well be that a criminal has inputted that as a part of a account takeover compromise. We have some sort of flyers, leaflets, stuff like that, which we can hand, or we can sort of let Chloe have at the end of this session if you do need anything like that at all. So one I think that we do see quite common, have you verified that request? So this comes along with the I said to you earlier about the sort of WhatsApp and getting messages from people. So what criminals will do once they've accessed accounts, sort of mobile phone accounts, your text message will come through, you know, sort of trying to, oh, this is me, oh, I've lost my phone, or this is my new number and stuff like this. You know, you need to make sure you verify that that is the right person, because it could be anybody. So off the back of it, we'll message that person and say, right, have you got a new phone? No, I haven't. Okay, well, obviously this is a criminal that's trying to access my device or access my system or account. So just need to make sure that if you do get anything that comes through that you're not sure of, just verify, make sure who it is, because inevitably it could be somebody that is obviously trying to do wrong. Social engineering. So a lot of this, again, we see along the terms of compromising, sort of spoofing, stuff like this. So criminals will spoof sender's address to make emails seem genuine. So I mentioned this earlier. What you see nowadays is not what is real. You can't really believe what you get nowadays, which is really a sad state of affair, considering, you know, we've grown up in a world where, you know, we could believe most things, especially, you know, a number of years ago anyway. But nowadays, because of the way the criminals can change logos, photos, other content, you know, long now have gone the times where emails would be, you know, the spelling would be incorrect, or the grammar would be obvious that this is something that's been put together. Nowadays they're very sophisticated, and, you know, most of the stuff we see, we would believe if it wasn't for the fact that we were just not expecting anything to come through to us. So phishing emails may appear to be from supplier services that you use. Again, don't do anything with those. Go back to those suppliers or service providers on a separate number or separate email and say, look, have you tried to contact us? I would say pretty much the majority of it will be no, we haven't. Emails, messages may include your name and other relevant details. So again, this is all about the criminal trying to spoof you into thinking that it is genuine, and it's not. So again, a couple of examples on here. You know, particularly the subject, the COVID-19 email, for instance, the FAQ. Don't click on that link. It could lead to somewhere else, or take you somewhere else that you don't want to go to. So cyber criminals send texts and other messages that may be displayed alongside your existing and trusted messages. So in particular, you can see the phone on the side there. They all look like they're genuine messages, but they're not. They may appear to be sent from a friend, family member, or a trusted organization. They may include links that will open up fake but realistic looking fiche websites and logon pages that are designed to steal your passwords, personal information, and payment details. They can even pick up what phone devices you're using now. So if you access it through a phone, they'll be able to know if you're using an Android or an Apple device. Criminals claim to be someone you know well and ask for emergency funds and gifts to be purchased. So again, going back to the sort of previous sort of verifying slide, you know, we need to make sure that who the person sending the message through is someone that you know. As say that the criminal could have compromised another account, and then be asking for these items, again, monetary items. An example of this was somebody messaged them through saying that they've got a friend who's very poorly at the minute and they need a gift card, £25, I think it was. You know, that was obviously from a compromised account. So they'll try their best to try and get what they need from you, even pull their heartstrings a little bit. But the ultimate thing is, don't give in to them. If it's not who you think it is, like I say, or you're not sure, it takes a couple of minutes just to contact that person to say, look, have you sent me this request? It might be genuine, it might not be, but the best thing to do is to make sure that it is that you're safe in that sense, and your details are safe. So courier fraud, a very particular nasty case, this one, where criminals will basically subject you to, we've seen 2, 3, 4 hour phone calls, basically trying to get you in on a scam or fraud, where they will try to manipulate you in regard to basically getting hold of funds. So they'll contact you and ask you your PIN. So they'll basically get hold of you, and they'll try and get you to go to your local branch to withdraw money, because it's counterfeit money, and the building societies are involved in all this, and you'll get to a point where you think you're actually doing good, but actually you're not. You're actually going in and releasing money to people, and then the courier, i.e. another person, will come and knock on the door and collect that money from you. It won't be the main person. It'll always be a lower person who will come and grab that from you. We've seen bank cards being taken as well. There was a case where there was a gentleman who was unfortunately suffering from dementia. His wife got back and he was outside with his bank card in his hand, and he was ready to give that up to somebody because he felt that he was doing the right thing. But the big thing to remember here is that the police will never ask you for PIN or bank details. So if you do get the police come through to you asking you for those details, it's not us. Just put the phone down. We won't ask to transfer money out of your account for fraudulent reasons. Okay, so there's not this big scam where the banks and building societies are involved in it. It will be the couriers or the criminals who are trying to get those funds from you. Ask to withdraw cash and hand over to keep for sake. So again, it happens, and send someone home to collect your cash, pins, and cards. As I previously mentioned, they will do anything they need to get hold of the cash that they need. So again, the biggest thing that we find for these is, if you're not sure, put the phone down, give it 5 minutes, and that way then the call will disconnect. But if you do get a call through, you're in your right mind to turn around and say, I don't want to talk to you, thank you, just put the phone down. I think that we are very much as a society, whether we're young, elderly, if I'm honest, it's more sort of the more vulnerable people, I guess, that are scammed, because sometimes they'll want that conversation, they'll want to talk to people, and then they won't realize obviously what's happening until they're down withdrawing thousands of money out of their bank accounts. So fake discount vouchers, particularly this time of year, with Black Friday, Cyber Monday coming up, quite busy for us, as you can imagine. So don't automatically trust posts because friends liked or shared it, because that could be a criminal doing that on the behalf of your friend, if they they're trying to be your friend in that sense. Avoid giving personal information on surveys, quizzes, and online polls. So again, if my underlying point from this is, from this whole presentation is don't give up personal information. Keep your information safe. It's your information. Check and update social media device privacy settings regularly. Again, a part and parcel of making sure that your devices are obviously safe. I'm pretty sure that we've perhaps seen the examples here, the Sainsbury's, particularly the Boots. You're not going to win a toothbrush, but as soon as you click on that get started, you're compromising yourself to the criminals, and it only takes a couple of them to do that. Even going back to the post one where you get the email through saying, or DHL saying, you need to pay £1 something for postage, because it hasn't, the original cost hasn't covered the parcel. It might be £1, but if you put your bank details in there, they'll get access to that, and I'm sure it will cost you more than £1. So again, just be wary in that way. I'm getting probably very close to the end. I think actually this might be the last slide, I believe. So I shall keep this up for a little bit longer if you need to. But action fraud, I've mentioned it a few times within this presentation. It's the National Reporting Centre. They're based in the City of London Police. So all reports that get reported into them will then get circulated to regional forces, and so they'll come onto, they'll hit us on a weekly basis. So you've got the phone number there. You've also got the email address. A couple more details for you. So 7726. So if you are getting lots of text messages where you believe they're spam or scam messages, if you go into those messages and forward that to 7726, that will then get reported to the bank's mobile phone providers. So I don't know, if you get a phone call through on your mobile, for instance, and it comes up suspected spam, it'll be because that number has been reported by other people. So what I'm saying is, if you're not sure, yes, delete it, no problem at all. But if you can send it to 7726, then the more of them we get, the more the safer that we all become. Basically, we're doing our bit to make other people safe, because full well they'll move on to somebody next door or somebody down the road, or anyways. Emails. So again, reporting@phishing.gov.uk. So again, you can forward your emails to that. Again, you can delete them as well, but if we can try and report, the more we report, the better and the safer, obviously, we can make ourselves. 159. So 159 is an interesting number. So if you feel that you've been compromised, whether you've had a phone call or a message, and you think that potentially someone's got hold of your account, then you can call 159. They'll ask you sort of what service. So because 159 goes to banks and building site, so it might be that you've got you want to speak to Nationwide, for instance. So 159, I'd like to speak to Nationwide. I think I've had I just want to check that I've had no fraudulent activity on my account, and they'll obviously make sure that they verify who you are, and then they'll be able to hopefully put your mind at rest. They won't ever call you. So if you do see 159 calling you, it's just don't answer the phone. But 159 is basically a good one, particularly when you haven't got access to online banking or telephone banking. So normally you'd have to go into a bank, so you'd have to get on a bus or travel to a branch. And as we know nowadays, branches are reducing in the high streets. So with that in mind, anyone can ring that number now and be put through and basically be safer for it. can be contacted on voice.northants.org or phoning the number there. Again, that's a service which helps victims to get through what they've been through in regard to at some point quite harrowing cases. And that, I believe, yeah, I believe that is the end of my presentation.